Everyone in town said the tiny Apache woman was too small, too fragile, too broken by the life she had escaped. Even she believed it, until the day the rancher took her trembling hands, looked straight into her frightened eyes, and said something that shook her soul. The world had told her she wasn't enough, but what he did next proved everyone wrong. Lena Redbird had never imagined her life would fall apart so completely, yet there she was, stumbling across a dusty Texas plain with nothing but the clothes on her back and a heart full of bruises no one could see. She was small, barely over 5 feet, her frame delicate enough that people often mistook her for a child. All her life she had heard the same words whispered around her on the reservation: too small, too fragile, too weak to build a future, too small to be anyone's partner, too small for anyone to choose. In the end, she had begun to believe it. Believing it was easier than fighting it. But when the winter storms hit, and the only family she had left turned violent with drink and bitterness, she made a choice she never thought she would make: she ran. She didn't take food, money, or protection from the cold. She simply ran until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to give out beneath her. She ran through the desert night guided only by the moon, her thin sandals wearing down against harsh ground. By the time daylight broke over the endless stretch of ranch land, she was trembling, weak, and barely conscious. She tried to call for help when she saw the wooden fence ahead of her, but no sound came out. A few more steps and her world went black. When she woke, everything felt strange. Warm. Safe. The smell of wood smoke drifted around her, and the softness beneath her cheek told her she was lying in a bed, something she hadn't touched in days. She blinked the blur from her eyes and saw a man sitting nearby, hat in his hands, watching her with the careful eyes of someone who didn't want to startle a wounded creature. He was tall, broad-shouldered, sun-browned from long days on the land. His expression wasn't pity, nor judgment, only concern. "You're awake," he said gently. "You collapsed near my fence. I brought you inside before the cold finished what the night started." His voice was calm, steady, the kind that made the edges of panic soften. She pushed herself up slowly, her body stiff and aching, and pulled the blanket around her like armor. "I'm sorry," she whispered, ashamed without knowing why. "You've got nothing to apologize for," he replied. "You were freezing, hungry, and half dead on your feet." Something inside her tightened. She wasn't used to kindness from strangers, especially men. She studied him cautiously. Why help me?" He shrugged lightly. "Because you needed it." Tears stung her eyes unexpectedly. No one had ever helped her so simply, without expecting something in return. When he offered her a bowl of warm stew, her hands shook as she accepted it. But as she took the first bite, a memory stabbed through her, the cruel voice of her uncle, the laughter of neighbors, the words that had haunted her for years. "My body's too small," she whispered without meaning to speak. I'm not good for anything. I'm not fit for a home or a family. They said I'm not even breeding material." The bowl trembled in her hands. She hated how broken she sounded. The rancher looked at her for a long, quiet moment, then knelt in front of her, his eyes soft but fierce with something she had never seen before. "Lena," he said slowly, "whoever put those thoughts in your head lied to you. Your worth isn't measured by your size. And no one, gets to decide your value but you." When she tried to look away, he gently lifted her chin, giving her every chance to pull back. She didn't. "You're safe here," he murmured. "And you matter more than you know." For the first time in her life, she believed someone might mean it. Lena didn't know how to respond. The words he spoke were so foreign to her, so opposite of everything she'd been fed since childhood, that her mind didn't know where to place them. Safety was a language she'd never learned. Worth was a concept she'd never been allowed to imagine. She stared into the rancher's eyes, steady, deep, patient, as if searching for the hidden trick, the lie, the catch. Yet there was none. He wasn't trying to convince her for his benefit. He believed what he said. And that truth scared her more than her uncle's drunken rage ever had, because suddenly there was something fragile inside her that wanted to believe him. She turned her face away, blinking back tears she refused to let fall. Crying had never solved anything before, it only made people call her weak. But the rancher, Rhett, he'd said his name was, didn't move to grab her or hush her or tighten his grip. He simply stood and stepped back, giving her space, as if he understood that she wasn't ready for closeness, not yet. "I'll get you some fresh clothes," he said quietly. "They'll be too big, but clean is better than cold." He walked into the next room, leaving the cabin filled with only the soft crackle of the fire. Lena stared into the flames, her mind drifting back to the reservation, snow swirling around old trailers, the echo of slamming doors, her uncle's hand raised in another threat she'd grown too accustomed to. She remembered standing outside in the freezing night, breath trembling in the air, whispering to herself that she wasn't worth keeping alive. If she disappeared, she used to think, the world would continue exactly the same. But now, sitting in a warm cabin wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of pine and horses, she wondered if the world might shift, even slightly, because she existed. It was a terrifying and beautiful thought. Rhett returned with folded clothes and set them gently beside her, careful not to invade her space. "Bathrooms through there," he said. "Take your time." She slid off the bed, legs shaky, and walked slowly toward the small door. But halfway there, a wave of dizziness pulled her to a stop. Rhett was beside her in an instant, his hands hovering, never touching unless she gave permission. "Easy," he murmured. "You've pushed your body too far." "I'm fine," she whispered, though she wasn't. "You don't have to pretend here." Something inside her broke at those words. Pretending was all she'd ever done, pretending she wasn't hurt, pretending she wasn't scared, pretending she didn't hear the cruel laughter behind her back. Pretending made her survive, but it also slowly erased her. Her knees buckled slightly and Rhett steadied her, not grabbing, not trapping, just supporting. His touch was warm, gentle, grounding. She hated how much she needed it, yet in the same breath she felt grateful in a way she'd never been before. "Let me help you sit," he said softly, guiding her to a chair near the fire. She sank into it, feeling the exhaustion of days finally dragging her down. He crouched again, at eye level, speaking in that low, calm tone that quieted the storm inside her. "You're safe here, Lena. And you don't owe me anything. Not a story, not trust, not a future. Just breathe for now. That's enough." She pressed her lips together, trying not to let emotion overwhelm her, but a small sound escaped her, a broken, helpless sob she immediately tried to swallow. Before she could apologize, Rhett spoke again, "You can cry if you need to. No shame in that." Her hand flew to her mouth to stop another sob, but it was too late. The tears spilled, hot and silent, trailing down her cheeks. And for the first time, no one mocked her for it. No one yelled. No one told her to toughen up. Rhett placed a clean handkerchief beside her and stepped away, giving her privacy even in her pain. She clutched it, shaking. Minutes passed before she found her voice again. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she whispered. Rhett paused at the window, looking out at the spreading dusk. "Because everyone deserves a chance to feel human," he said. Then he turned back to her, his gaze steady and warm. "Especially someone who's been told they're not." Lena lowered her eyes, her heart pounding with something she couldn't name. For the first time in her life, she wondered if she had stumbled not into danger, but into the place where her life finally began.